"Your daughter is trapped in the convent," the little girl told the desperate millionaire. Then they invade the convent at night and discover something shocking. Please rate my story from 0 to 10 in the comments. Your opinion is very important, and subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on your help. The phone rang precisely at 6 in the morning, cutting through the silence of Ethan Brandalize's luxurious Manhattan penthouse like a sharp blade. The 52-year-old tech mogul jumped out of bed, his heart hammering with the hope that had tormented him for 8 months. Maybe it was her. Maybe Lucy Hope had finally decided to come home. "Hello," he said, his voice rough as he struggled to process the reality of another day without his daughter. "Mr. Brandalize, this is the NYPD. We found a little girl in the downtown area who claims to have information about your daughter." Ethan felt his legs weaken. For all these months, he had chased false leads, hired private investigators, searched every corner of New York City and the surrounding boroughs. Nothing. Lucy had simply vanished after that terrible argument with Valerie, her adoptive mother, on the night the truth about her origins finally came to light. 20 minutes later, Ethan was at the police precinct watching a 4-year-old girl sitting in a chair far too big for her. Mia had tangled brown hair and large eyes that seemed to hold immense secrets for someone so small. Her clothes were dirty and torn, but there was something in the way she observed everything around her that showed a precocious intelligence molded by survival on the streets. "Do you know my daughter?" Ethan asked, crouching down to her level. Mia nodded slowly, studying the face of the man in front of her. "The lady with the long hair who is always crying? She lives with the nuns now." The impact of the words hit Ethan like a punch to the gut. Lucy was at the convent of the Sisters of Mercy, nestled on a quiet hill upstate, the same place where she had attended school when she was little, before Valerie decided to move her to a public school downtown. "How do you know that?" the detective asked, suspicious. Mia shrugged. "I see a lot of things. People think kids don't understand anything, but I listen. The lady arrived there a few months ago, all bruised up inside. She helps take care of the orphan babies." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. Lucy had always been sensitive, especially when it came to abandoned children. It made sense that she would seek refuge there, caring for others who, like her, had lost their original families. On the way to the convent, Mia recounted fragments of information that revealed how a street kid managed to know so much about his family's private life. She had lived for weeks near Valerie's house, his ex-wife, after running away from an abusive foster home. There, through open windows and conversations in the yard, she had witnessed the constant arguments between Valerie and the nuns from the convent who came for regular visits. "The lady with the dyed hair yelled a lot," Mia said, referring to Valerie. "She burned a lot of papers in the backyard one rainy night." "Papers with pretty stamps." Ethan slammed on the brakes on the shoulder of the road leading up the hill. "What papers?" "Letters. Lots of letters. The lady was crying while she burned them. She said it was to protect her daughter, but the nuns were mad at her." The mogul processed the information in silence. Valerie had burned letters that might have something to do with Lucy's origins. Throughout her 16 years of life, the girl had always questioned her biological family, but Valerie always told the same story, that her real parents had lost their lives in an accident and that there were no living relatives. When they finally reached the convent, it was already night. The place remained silent, with only a few windows lit in the wings where the orphanage operated. Ethan knew those corridors well. He had made generous donations over the years, a way to repay the care the nuns had given Lucy during her childhood. Mia guided him with the confidence of someone who knew every stone of that place. "She's always in the baby's room at night," the girl whispered. "Sings them to sleep." When they reached the orphanage window, Ethan saw his daughter for the first time in 8 months. Lucy was thinner, her long hair tied back in a simple ponytail, wearing humble clothes. She was rocking a baby in her arms, humming a lullaby that Ethan recognized. It was the same one Valerie used to sing when Lucy was small. But there was something different about his daughter. Her eyes, once bright and full of life, now carried a deep sadness, a forced maturity that broke Ethan's heart. In the 8 months away from home, Lucy had transformed from a rebellious teenager into a young woman marked by pain. "Why doesn't she come home?" Ethan asked Mia, unable to tear his eyes away from his daughter. "Because she found out her whole life was a lie," the girl replied with devastating simplicity. "And now she wants to find the truth herself." At that moment, as if she felt she was being watched, Lucy looked towards the window. Her eyes met Ethan's, and for an instant, father and daughter stared at each other through the glass. Tears began to stream down the young woman's face, but she didn't move. She didn't run into her father's arms, as he hoped. Instead, she shook her head slowly, as if to say she wasn't ready to return yet. Ethan gently tapped on the glass, trying to gesture for her to open the window, but Lucy just hugged the baby tighter to her chest and backed away, disappearing into the dark corridors of the convent. "She's still angry," Mia observed. "But it's not just at you. She's angry at everyone who lied to her." As they drove down the hill in the silent car, Ethan pondered the girl's words. Valerie had lied about Lucy's origins. Letters had been burned. His daughter had discovered something that hurt her deeply, and now she was seeking the truth on her own. But one question tormented him. If Lucy had run away 8 months ago, why did Mia know such intimate details about the recent happenings at Valerie's house? How could a 4-year-old circulate between the convent, the city streets, and his ex-wife's house without anyone noticing? When he pulled over in front of the precinct to drop Mia off, she turned to him with a look that seemed to carry knowledge far beyond her age. "Tomorrow I'll show you where the lady with the dyed hair hid the letters she didn't burn," she said, getting out of the car with the same nonchalance with which she had entered. "But first you have to promise you'll let your daughter decide whether she wants to come back or not." Ethan stayed put in the car, watching Mia disappear into the shadows of downtown. The girl knew secrets that could change everything, but the price for that information would be accepting that Lucy might never want to come home again. Ethan spent the whole night awake, pacing through the luxurious apartment he once shared with Lucy. Every room carried memories of his daughter. The literature books scattered across the living room, the middle school graduation photos hanging in the hallway, her room that remained untouched since she fled. Mia's promise echoed in his mind, but the condition imposed by the girl left him divided between hope and fear. At 7 in the morning, when the bells of the churches in the historic downtown began to chime, announcing another day in the bustling city, Ethan made a decision. He drove to the square where he had left Mia the night before, hoping to find her among the morning commuters who were already walking on the cobblestone streets. The girl was sitting on the steps of the Arts Center, watching the pigeons compete for breadcrumbs left by visitors. Her brown hair was even more tangled, and she wore the same dirty clothes from the day before, but her eyes remained alert, as if she were waiting for him. "You came," Mia said without raising her eyes from the pigeons. "I thought you were going to give up." "I would never give up on my daughter," Ethan replied, sitting down next to her on the cold steps. "But I need to understand one thing first. How do you know so much about my family?" Mia finally looked at him, and Ethan saw something disturbing in those child's eyes, a bitter wisdom that came from witnessing things no child should see. "When I ran away from the home where they hit me, I looked for a place to hide. The lady with the dyed hair's house had a big backyard with a good tree to climb. I stayed there for weeks, eating fallen fruit and drinking water from the garden hose." Ethan felt a pang in his chest, imagining that child surviving alone, hidden in Valerie's backyard, without anyone knowing. "That's where I saw everything. The nuns' visits, the arguments, the night she burned the papers. And I also saw when your daughter came back once, just once, before she went to the convent." The mogul straightened up, surprised. "Lucy came home, only to get something. She climbed through her bedroom window while the lady was asleep. She was crying a lot. She grabbed a small box from under the bed and left. The lady didn't even know. A box. Ethan vaguely remembered Lucy keeping sentimental items in a small wooden box she had received as a gift years ago. Photos, letters from friends, small mementos. He had never thought it might contain something important about her origins. "Do you know what was in the box?" Mia shook her head. "But I know where the lady hid the letters she didn't burn. Want to see?" The drive to Valerie's house was a silent torture for Ethan. He hadn't set foot on the property for 8 months, since the messy separation that happened shortly after Lucy disappeared. Valerie blamed him for not raising their daughter properly, for allowing her to question the past too much. He blamed her for lying about something so fundamental in the girl's life. The house, which was once a haven of family happiness, now looked abandoned. The garden was neglected, the flowers Valerie loved so much were wilted, and a heavy atmosphere hung over the place. "She's not here," Mia said, observing the closed windows. "She leaves every morning and only comes back at night. I don't think she can stand to be here alone." Ethan used the key he still kept to enter the house. The interior was in a deplorable state. Dirty dishes piled up in the sink, clothes scattered on the floor, empty wine bottles accumulated in several corners. It was evident that Valerie was not coping well with Lucy's absence. Mia guided him to the backyard, stopping under a leafy maple tree at the back of the property. "There," she said, pointing to a rose bush that seemed to have been recently disturbed. "She buried a metal box there that night after she burned the papers." With trembling hands, Ethan began to dig into the damp earth. It didn't take long to feel something solid. It was an old cookie tin, rusty at the edges, but still intact. When he opened it, he found about 20 letters, all addressed to Lucy Hope Brandelize, with a return address from a certain Sonia Reed. The first letter was dated 3 years ago, shortly after Lucy's 13th birthday. With shaky fingers, Ethan began to read. "My dear niece, I know you don't know me, but I am the sister of your real mother, Irene. Every year on your birthday, I write to tell you how you have grown up beautiful and smart, even without being able to be close. Your mother always dreamed of meeting you, but unfortunately, she passed away 3 years ago in a work accident. Before she left, she asked me to try to keep in touch with you so you would know that you were loved from the very first day of your life." Ethan felt his legs buckle. Lucy had a biological aunt, an aunt who had been trying to keep in touch for years, sending letters that Valerie intercepted and hid. The biological mother had passed away, but there was a family Lucy never knew she had. "How many letters did she burn?" he asked Mia, who watched his reaction with curiosity. "A lot. More than 100, I think. They came every month, sometimes twice a month. The lady got very nervous when they arrived." As he read letter after letter, Ethan put together a painful puzzle. Sonia Reed had tried for years to establish contact with Lucy. She sent family photos, told stories about her deceased sister, and explained the circumstances of the adoption. In one of the most recent letters, she mentioned that she had discovered where Lucy attended school and would love to meet her in person. The last letter, dated 2 months before Lucy's disappearance, contained a devastating revelation. "Dear Lucy, after so long trying to make contact through letters, I decided to go in person to the convent of the Sisters of Mercy, where I discovered you studied when you were little. The nuns told me that your adoptive parents were always very careful, but that you always showed curiosity about your origins. Sister Margaret told me that you usually visit them on vacation, helping with the orphan children. I will be there next Thursday at 3 in the afternoon, waiting for you in the back garden." Ethan quickly calculated the dates. The letter was marked for a Thursday 2 months ago, exactly 1 week before Lucy ran away from home. She had somehow received that letter. She had discovered not only that she had a living aunt, but that this aunt had been looking for her for years. "How did Lucy get that letter?" he asked Mia. The girl looked down, clearly uncomfortable. "I grabbed it from the mail before the lady saw it. I thought the lady deserved to know the truth." Ethan remained silent for long minutes, processing what he had discovered. Mia, a 4-year-old child living on the streets, had been responsible for giving Lucy the letter that changed everything. A child had made a decision that neither he nor Valerie had the courage to make, letting Lucy know the truth about her origins. "Did you know what would happen when you gave her the letter?" "I knew she would be very sad, but I also knew that lying hurts more than the truth," Mia replied with a simplicity that cut through Ethan's heart. At that moment, the sound of a car arriving froze them. It was Valerie returning home earlier than usual. Ethan quickly put the letters back in the tin and hid it under his jacket, while Mia ran to hide behind the maple tree. Valerie walked into the yard with a swollen face and red eyes, clearly suffering. When she saw Ethan there, her expression turned into a mixture of surprise and anger. "What are you doing here?" she asked in a rough voice. "Looking for answers," he replied, standing up and facing the woman he'd been married to for 15 years. "Answers about the letters you hid from Lucy. Answers about why our daughter ran away from home." Valerie's face instantly paled, and she stumbled as if she had taken a physical blow. You found—" "I found everything, Valerie. Her aunt's letters, the family you denied existed, the truth you buried in this backyard, along with our daughter's trust." Valerie began to cry, a desperate sob that echoed through the silent yard. "I just wanted to protect her. I was afraid of losing her to this family we didn't know. Lucy was everything I had, Ethan, everything." But Ethan no longer felt pity. He only felt a cold, controlled anger. "And now you've lost her anyway. Only this time you've also lost her trust forever." As he headed for the gate, carrying the letters that would reveal the whole truth to Lucy, Ethan realized that Mia had disappeared again, like a shadow that came and went at her own will. But one last revelation awaited him. On the windshield of his car, there was a small folded paper with childlike handwriting. "The lady with the long hair doesn't know that her aunt has been working at the convent for 3 weeks. She cleans the rooms and waits for her niece to show up." Ethan felt the world spin around him. Sonia Reed was not just trying to find Lucy through letters. She had gotten a job at the very convent where her niece was hiding, and the two were just a few feet away from each other without knowing it. The drive up to the convent the next morning was one of the most agonizing journeys of Ethan's life. Every curve of the mountain road brought him closer to a confrontation that could either reunite his family or definitively destroy any chance of reconciliation. Sonia's letters were carefully stored in his executive briefcase, every word memorized after a sleepless night of reading. Upon arriving at the convent, Ethan was greeted by Sister Margaret, a 65-year-old nun who had known Lucy since childhood. Her grave expression indicated that the situation was more complex than he imagined. "Mr. Brandalise, I'm glad you came. We need to talk about Lucy," the nun said, leading him to a private room. "She is going through a very difficult time. She discovered yesterday that her biological mother passed away, and the revelation completely devastated her." Ethan felt his blood run cold. "How did she find out?" "Through Sonia, her aunt. They met by chance in the orphanage yesterday afternoon. It was traumatic for both of them." The nun recounted the encounter in painful detail. Sonia had been hired as a cleaning lady 3 weeks earlier, using her maiden name to avoid raising suspicion. Every day, she watched Lucy from afar, trying to muster the courage to introduce herself. When she finally approached her niece in the baby's room, the revelation was devastating. "Lucy panicked," Sister Margaret continued. "She screamed that her whole life had been a lie, that everyone had betrayed her. She locked herself in the guest room and hasn't come out in 20 hours. She won't eat, she won't talk to anyone." Ethan asked to see his daughter, but the nun shook her head negatively. "She specifically said she doesn't want to see you or Valerie. She feels betrayed by you too." During the conversation, Sonia Reed appeared at the room door. She was a 35-year-old woman with features that vaguely resembled Lucy, especially her expressive eyes. She was visibly shaken, her face swollen from crying. "Mr. Brandalize," she said in a trembling voice. "I'm Sonia, Irene's sister. I apologize for all this confusion. I never imagined it would cause so much suffering." Ethan showed her the letters he had found, and Sonia confirmed that she had written every one of them, hoping to establish contact. "Irene made me promise to look after Lucy from afar, to make sure she was okay. But as the years went by, my need to know her became stronger." "Why did your sister give Lucy up for adoption?" Ethan asked, finally posing the question that had tormented him since the discovery of the letters. Sonia took a deep breath before answering. Irene was only 17 when she got pregnant. Lucy's father was a local guy who disappeared when he found out about the pregnancy. Our family was very poor, and Irene worked 3 jobs to support us after our parents passed away. She did a lot of research before choosing you as adoptive parents. She wanted a structured family, with the means to give her daughter everything she couldn't offer. The story was more complex than Ethan had imagined. Irene hadn't abandoned Lucy out of neglect, but out of love. She had made a conscious and painful choice, based on what she believed was best for her daughter. But she always wanted to keep in touch. Always. The letters were her way of following Lucy's growth. Irene was radiant when I told her I had seen the girl playing in the local park or studying at school. It was as if she raised her from a distance. Just then, Mia came running through the convent corridors, looking for Ethan. The girl had hidden on the property overnight, sleeping in the garden, determined to follow the events. "The lady with the long hair is really bad," Mia said, out of breath. "She broke everything in the room and is talking to herself. The nuns are scared." Ignoring Sister Margaret's protests, Ethan rushed to the room where Lucy was isolated. Through the door, he could hear his daughter conversing with someone who wasn't there, her voice alternating between pleas and accusations. "Mom, why did you leave me? Why did everyone lie to me? I don't even know who I am anymore." Ethan's heart broke upon hearing the suffering in Lucy's voice. He gently knocked on the door. "Lucy, it's me, your father. Please, let me in." "You're not my father," she screamed from the other side. "My real father abandoned me before I was even born. And you knew about the letters and didn't tell me." "I didn't know, honey. I found out yesterday along with you. Valerie hid everything from both of us." There was a long silence before Lucy responded with a broken voice. "How can I trust you? How can I trust anyone after finding out that my entire life was based on lies?" Sonia approached the door. "Lucy, it's me, your Aunt Sonia. I know you're hurting, but you need to know that your mother never stopped loving you. Every letter I wrote was dictated by her before she passed away. She left recorded videos for you explaining everything." The door opened abruptly. Lucy was unrecognizable. Her hair was disheveled, her eyes swollen and red, and there was an expression of desperation that frightened everyone present. "Videos?" she asked hoarsely. Sonia nodded. "Your mother recorded messages for you on every birthday, from when you turned 5 until shortly before she died. They are stored at my house. She wanted you to watch them when you were ready to know the truth." Lucy looked at Ethan with a mixture of anger and despair. "Did you know she had passed away when you adopted me?" "No, honey. Valerie told me your biological parents had died in an accident, but never mentioned when or how. I never questioned it because I thought it would be too painful for you." "Painful?" Lucy laughed bitterly. "To know that my real mother died while I grew up happy in a family that lied to me every day, that she tried to keep in touch, and you prevented it? That's what's painful." Mia, who had remained silent watching the scene, approached Lucy. "The lady with the dyed hair didn't mean to hurt anyone. She was afraid you would leave. And who are you to defend anyone here?" Lucy turned to the girl with irritation. "You're just a kid who doesn't understand anything." Mia didn't back down. Instead, she looked directly into Lucy's eyes. "I understand being alone. I understand not having anyone. And I know that when we get too angry, we hurt the people who want to help us." The 4-year-old girl's words hit Lucy like a slap in the face. She knelt down to be at Mia's height. "What do you mean? That you have a family who loves you, even if they did wrong things? I don't have anyone." "But you have the gentleman who is crying," Mia pointed to Ethan. "You have the lady who wrote letters for years," she pointed to Sonia, "and you even have the lady with the dyed hair who did bad things but out of love." Lucy looked around and saw tears in everyone's eyes. Ethan was visibly shaken, Sonia was trembling with emotion, and even Sister Margaret had moist eyes. "But I don't know who to trust anymore," Lucy whispered. "Then trust yourself," Mia replied simply. "Watch your real mother's videos. Listen to what she has to say, then decide whether to forgive or not." Sonia hesitantly approached. "The videos are at my house, in Poughkeepsie. It's about an hour's drive from here. If you want, we can go today." Lucy remained silent for long minutes, fighting contradictory emotions. Finally, she looked at Ethan. "Are you coming with me? To see the videos?" "If you want me to go, I will," he replied without hesitation. "And later, I want to talk to Valerie. I want to understand why she did this to me, why she destroyed my chance to know my real family." Ethan nodded, although he knew that this confrontation would be devastating for everyone involved. As they prepared to leave the convent, Lucy turned to Mia. "Are you coming with us?" The girl shook her head. "I'll stay here with the nuns. They said I can help at the orphanage until they find a family for me." Lucy hugged Mia for the first time. "Thank you for giving me that letter, for giving me the chance to know the truth, even though it hurts." But when they reached Ethan's car, Sonia made a revelation that would change everything again. "There's something I haven't told you yet. Irene didn't die in a common work accident. She was working as a cleaner at the same hospital where Valerie was undergoing psychological treatment 3 years ago. They met, and Valerie found out who she was." Lucy stopped walking, the blood draining from her face. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that Valerie knew your biological mother was alive and working just a few feet away from her, and that, somehow, that might have influenced Irene's death." The drive to Poughkeepsie was made in tense silence. Lucy stared out the window at the scenery, processing Sonia's latest revelation about the encounter between Valerie and Irene at the hospital. Ethan drove with his hands clenched on the steering wheel, dreading what they would discover when they arrived at his daughter's biological aunt's house. Sonia's residence was simple, a classic craftsman-style home, surrounded by a well-kept garden. Inside, the walls were decorated with photos of Irene at different stages of her life, and Lucy was moved to see for the first time the face of the woman who had given birth to her. "She was beautiful," Lucy murmured, gently touching a photo where Irene was smiling at 17, with a subtle pregnant belly. "You inherited her eyes," Sonia said, setting up the equipment to play the videos, "and her stubbornness too." The first video showed Irene on Lucy's 5th birthday. She was visibly emotional, speaking directly to the camera as if talking to her daughter. "My little Lucy, today you are turning 5. I know you don't know me, but I want you to know that you were the most precious gift I have ever received in life. I chose your parents very carefully. I researched them for months. I wanted to be sure you would have everything I couldn't offer: stability, education, unconditional love." Lucy began to cry silently. Irene's voice was soft and caring, full of a maternal love that transcended the physical distance between them. The following videos showed Irene talking about her life, her difficulties, her dreams for Lucy's future. In the video for the 10th birthday, she revealed something that changed everything. "My dear, today I discovered something that worried me greatly. Your adoptive mother, Valerie, is undergoing treatment at the hospital where I work. She has serious psychological issues related to the fear of abandonment. I discreetly talked to her doctor, and he told me that she has developed a morbid obsession with you, as if you were her possession and not her daughter." Ethan felt the world spin as he heard those words. Valerie had never mentioned undergoing psychological treatment. Irene continued in the video. I'm thinking of introducing myself to her, trying to explain that I don't want to take you away from the family, just maintain healthy contact. Maybe if she knew me, she would understand that I'm not a threat. The next video, recorded a few months later, showed a visibly shaken Irene. Lucy, my daughter, I tried to talk to Valerie, but her reaction was terrible. She threatened me, said she would do anything to keep me away from you. She even mentioned that she knew people who could resolve the problem. I'm scared, but I can't give up on you. Lucy's hands trembled as she watched. Ethan was pale, realizing that the woman he had been married to for years hid a dark side he had never known. The last video, recorded just 2 weeks before Irene's death, was the most disturbing. My dear daughter, if you are watching this, it means something has happened to me. Valerie has been following me, constantly threatening me. Yesterday she sought me out at the hospital and said that if I didn't stop trying to make contact, she would make me disappear from your life forever. I'm keeping this video as evidence should it be needed. I want you to know that if anything happens to me, it was not an accident. The silence that followed was devastating. Lucy was in shock. Ethan couldn't believe what he had heard, and Sonia was weeping profusely. Valerie killed my mother, Lucy whispered. We don't know for sure, Sonia replied. Irene died in a car accident leaving the hospital, but I always thought it was strange. She was a very careful driver. Ethan stood up abruptly. We need to confront Valerie, now. The drive back to Manhattan was a race against time and against the sanity of everyone involved. Lucy alternated between crying fits and moments of silent rage. Ethan drove like a man possessed, determined to uncover the truth about the woman with whom he had shared 15 years of his life. When they arrived at Valerie's house, they found her in the garden, intoxicated, frantically digging in the spot where Ethan had found the letters. Where are they? She screamed to herself. Where are the damn letters? They're with me, Ethan said, making her turn around in fright. Valerie staggered as she saw Lucy standing behind her ex-husband. You brought her here? I brought her to hear the truth, Lucy replied, approaching the woman who had raised her as a mother. The truth about Irene, about what you did to her. Valerie's face contorted in a mixture of despair and madness. I didn't do anything. She was trying to take you away from me. She didn't understand that you were my daughter. You threatened her, Ethan accused. We have evidence. Evidence? Valerie laughed hysterically. What evidence? She died in an accident. An accident! But then her expression changed, as if she realized she had said too much. I just wanted to protect our family. She was going to destroy everything we built. Lucy stepped closer, her eyes shining with controlled fury. You knew she was dying to meet me. You knew she loved me, and yet you threatened her. I couldn't lose her, Valerie exploded. You were everything I had, my only reason for living. When I found out your biological mother was alive and working at the same hospital where I was being treated, I panicked. So you did what? Ethan insisted. Valerie was silent for long minutes until she finally broke down. I tampered with her car brakes the night before the accident. I only wanted to scare her, to make her understand that it was dangerous to keep insisting. I never thought that... The silence that followed was deafening. Lucy fell to her knees on the ground, the weight of the revelation too much to bear. Ethan was paralyzed, unable to process that the woman he had loved was capable of something so monstrous. You killed my mother, Lucy said in a voice that came from the depths of her soul. You destroyed my chance to know her because of your own sick insecurity. Valerie crawled closer, trying to touch Lucy. I did it for love, for you, to protect our family. That wasn't love, Lucy said, moving away. It was obsession. It was selfishness. Just then, Mia came running through the garden. The girl had followed Ethan's car on foot, determined not to miss the conclusion of the story she had helped reveal. "The police are coming," she said out of breath. "I told Sister Margaret about the videos and she called them." Valerie went into total panic. "No, they can't take me. Lucy, you understand, don't you?" "I did everything for you." But Lucy no longer heard her. She was in Ethan's arms, crying all the tears she had accumulated over the past few months. The truth had been revealed, but the price had been devastating. When the police arrived and took Valerie away, she screamed hysterically that she had acted out of love, that everything had been to protect her daughter. But her words sounded hollow given the magnitude of her betrayal. In the months that followed, Lucy went through a long process of emotional healing. She decided to return home with Ethan, but with one condition. Sonia would be officially included as part of the family. The biological aunt moved to New York, filling a void that Lucy didn't even know existed. Mia, who had become a fundamental piece in the family's reconstruction, was temporarily welcomed by Ethan while awaiting a new adoptive family. The girl, with her precocious wisdom and generous heart, had been the catalyst that allowed the truth to come to light. Valerie was convicted of manslaughter and committed to a psychiatric institution. During the trial, it became clear that her psychological disorders had worsened over the years, transforming maternal love into a destructive obsession. A year later, during the NYC Winter Festival, Lucy danced on the main stage, wearing a traditional winter dress, participating in the city's traditions that she now embraced with new meaning. In the audience, Ethan, Sonia, and Mia applauded emotionally, forming a family rebuilt on the foundation of truth and forgiveness. Lucy had learned that sometimes love can turn into something toxic when mixed with fear and insecurity. But she had also discovered that the truth, no matter how painful, is always preferable to lies. Sonia had found the niece she had been looking for years, and through her, a way to honor Irene's memory. Mia, now 5 and adopted by a loving family from upstate, visited the Brandelises regularly. She had become the little sister Lucy never knew she wanted. And Ethan had learned that sometimes we have to lose everything to discover what truly matters. It is not the secrets we keep that define a family, but the courage to face the truth together, no matter how painful it may be. The last scene of the story took place in the garden of the new house where they now all lived together. Lucy planted white roses in memory of Irene, while Mia helped her, both humming a song that spoke of new beginnings and hope. There, in that simple moment full of true love, the family had finally found the peace they had sought for so long. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring you videos every day that will make your life happier. Comment what you thought of my story by giving it a rating from 0 to 10. And thank you very much.